The security camera on my laptop showed my parents pacing nervously in the sleek executive lobby of Kingston Industries. Mom kept smoothing the folds of her designer dress, while Dad checked his Rolex for what had to be the 5th time in the last few minutes. "Miss Kingston will see you shortly," my assistant Charlotte said over the intercom, barely hiding a smirk. They had no clue that they were about to face their own daughter, the very same one whose trust fund they had seized 6 months earlier. "How long should they wait?" Charlotte asked, her voice coming through crisp and teasing. I observed them on the feed, recalling that day in their penthouse when they casually wiped out my inheritance. Or so they thought. "Give them another 15 minutes, I replied coolly. They made me wait 25 years for my trust fund. They could manage a few extra minutes before meeting the CEO who was about to buy their company. The memory of their betrayal was as sharp as shattered glass. "It's about your trust fund," Mom had said sweetly over Sunday brunch, her voice dripping with that trademark feigned concern. I had looked up from my coffee, instantly alert. The trust fund, $2 million from my grandparents, was supposed to be mine at 25. That birthday was only 2 weeks away. "Your brother needs it more," she continued, avoiding my eyes. "His new venture requires serious capital. And, well, you seem to be doing fine with your little startup." "Little startup?" I repeated, stunned. TechFin Solutions employed 50 people and was transforming the financial tech world. "Playing with computers isn't a real business," Dad had interrupted. "Thomas has a tangible opportunity, real estate, something solid." Thomas, my golden boy brother, had never held a real job and had already failed at 3 ventures funded by our parents' money. "That trust fund was left to me," I protested. "By my grandparents." "And we're your parents," Mom said firmly. "We know what's best. The paperwork is done. The money is already in Thomas's account." I sat there, coffee cooling, as they detailed their legal maneuvers around my grandparents' wishes, how they decided my brother deserved my inheritance more than I did. "You don't really need it," Dad added casually. "Your lifestyle is modest." "Modest because I invested every penny into my company, living in a small apartment, driving a used car. I built something real, not squandering inherited wealth." They never reviewed TechFin's reports, never noticed our revolutionary payment platform attracting major investors, never realized that while they were pocketing my trust fund, I was quietly building an empire. Last week, the offer to acquire their company had landed on my desk. Anderson Financial, the firm my parents had spent decades building, was faltering. Their old-school methods couldn't compete with the fintech innovations my company had pioneered. But they didn't know TechFin belonged to me. Just as they didn't know that Kingston Industries, the very company about to buy them out, was mine as well. "They lost the $2 million, Charlotte said, breaking my reverie. "Thomas's venture collapsed." "Of course it did," I muttered. "He'd probably burn through it in months." "Anderson's numbers?" I asked, though I already knew. Their stock had plunged another 12% since the sale rumors surfaced. Clients were fleeing to digital solutions, platforms like TechFin's. Charlotte's suppressed grin was clear even over the intercom. "Exactly. They're practically begging for this buyout. Kingston Industries' offer is their only lifeline. Ironic, isn't it? This is the same company they once cited to justify taking your inheritance." "Miss Kingston is a visionary," I had overheard Dad telling his golfing buddies last week. "She's reshaping the industry. Anderson Financial would be honored to join her organization." If only he knew the truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Thomas, "Jesus. Heard you're still at that tech company. Need any help?" "I'm between." Thomas texted me again, offering help with his current ventures. I deleted it without a second thought. The man had burned through my trust fund and now fancied himself a mentor. The irony was almost laughable. "They're getting restless," Charlotte reported. "Your father's asked 3 times when Miss Kingston will be arriving." I straightened my tailored blazer. "Give me 5 more minutes, then bring them to the conference room." I walked to my private bathroom, studying my reflection. The young woman in the mirror was nothing like the daughter they'd casually dismissed. No more casual startup hoodies or minimal makeup. Today, I looked every inch the CEO poised to take over their company. Everything said in the conference room, Charlotte confirmed. The purchase agreement is ready. Should I have legal standing by? No need, I said firmly. This meeting won't drag on. I gathered the files I'd need, proof of Anderson Financial's decline, documentation of their mismanagement, and most crucially, records proving Kingston Industries' true ownership. They had taken $2 million from me thinking it was insignificant. Soon, they'd discover I'd built an empire worth hundreds of times that sum. Send them in, I said. I watched Charlotte approach my parents through the security feed. Miss Kingston will see you now. They straightened their posture, adopting the practiced poise of seasoned businesspeople. Mom adjusted her pearls. Dad tugged at his suit jacket. Thank you for waiting, Charlotte said professionally. Miss Kingston appreciates your patience. If only they realized the woman they were about to meet wasn't the naive daughter they'd once controlled, but the one now controlling them. I took my seat at the head of the conference table, arranging the papers with precision. Every detail mattered for this moment. A soft knock. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, Miss Kingston is ready to see you. I smiled, thinking of my grandparents. They would have been proud of what I'd built with my own hands, not with inherited wealth. Send them in. Sometimes revenge isn't just achieving success. It's making them witness it firsthand. My parents entered with all the confidence of practiced charm, the same confidence they'd worn while seizing my trust fund. Mom's heels clicked on the marble. Dad's gold cufflinks caught the sunlight. I remained facing the window, letting them take in the sprawling city skyline before turning to confront them. Miss Kingston, my father began in his polished business tone, we can't thank you enough for. I turned slowly, savoring the shift on their faces, from polite professionalism to absolute disbelief. Sarah, Mom whispered, her perfectly maintained composure cracking. Actually, I said evenly, it's Miss Kingston now. Please, have a seat. They froze, stunned, before slowly sinking into the chairs. In a way, they were facing the ghost of the daughter they had underestimated. This is impossible, Mom said. You run that little tech startup, TechFin Solutions? I smiled. Yes. Along with Kingston Industries and 6 other tech ventures. Want to see the numbers? With a tap, the wall screen lit up. TechFin Solutions, $850 million. Kingston Industries, $3.2 billion. Total holdings, just over $5 billion. Dad's face drained of color. But, you never said anything, you never asked, he stammered. I opened my folder. Too busy giving my trust fund to Thomas for his concrete investments. How's that working out? Mom flinched. Thomas made mistakes. He lost $2 million in 3 months. I fixed it, I said. My $2 million. The money our grandparents left for me. We were helping him, Dad protested. He needed to learn responsibility. Instead, I said, you enabled his failures while dismissing my achievements. I laid out Anderson Financial's recent performance reports. Your firm is failing. Traditional investment models are collapsing. Digital platforms, like TechFin's, are taking over. They stared at the numbers, the reality sinking in. Kingston Industries' buyout offer was the only thing keeping them afloat. I leaned back slightly, letting the truth settle. You're hemorrhaging clients, I said, laying the reports down. They're fleeing to modern financial services, platforms I built while you were redirecting my inheritance. That's not stealing, Mom protested. You moved money that was legally mine into Thomas's account without my knowledge. What would you call that? I asked. Silence fell heavy in the room. The city buzzed far below, oblivious to the confrontation taking place 50 floors up. Why didn't you tell us about all this? Dad finally asked. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Would you have listened? The exact day you siphoned off my trust fund you called TechFin a little startup. You dismissed everything I'd worked for because it didn't fit your narrow definition of success. Charlotte slipped in with another stack of papers. The final purchase agreement, Miss Kingston. Thank you, Charlotte. I opened the folder. Now, let's talk about Anderson Financial's future. You're really buying our company? Mom's voice shook. Yes, I said. But not to rescue it, to overhaul it. I pushed the agreement across the table. Anderson Financial will be integrated into TechFin's digital platform. The old model ends today. Dad reached out, hands trembling. The offer, it's below what we asked. It's more than your company is truly worth, I corrected. I'm being considerate given the way you've run things. Considerate? He looked up, incredulous. Do parents act considerately when they take a child's inheritance? Do people who claim to care support dreams or quietly siphon them away? Mom's mascara streaked as she sobbed. We were wrong. Can't we work something out? Please? You can sign, I said, tapping the agreement, and accept my terms. Let me salvage what's left, or you can watch it implode. Your choice. And Thomas? Dad asked finally. Thomas made his choices, I replied. He'll live with the consequences, the way you must live with yours. They signed, slow and defeated. Each signature felt like another brick falling from the facade they'd spent decades erecting. You'll receive final payments within 30 days, I told them, gathering the documents. After that, Anderson Financial will cease to exist as it was. That's it? Mom whispered, grief and disbelief tangled in her voice. 30 years, gone? No, I said. There's one last item. I produced a different folder, my final, quieter coup, employment offers. Positions on TechFin's client transition team, entry-level roles to help Anderson's clients migrate to digital services. You'll be working to help traditional investors adapt. They stared at me, unbelieving. You're offering us jobs? Dad's voice cracked. Working for you? I'm offering a chance to learn the future you ignored. Starting salary, $60,000 a year. Humble by your standards, but adequate. I stood. You have 24 hours to decide. Charlotte will see you out. As they shuffled toward the door, shoulders heavy, Dad glanced back. You planned all this. You bought our company to make us work for you. No, I answered. I built something that succeeded. Your failure simply made the opportunity possible. Call it karma if you like. When the door closed, Charlotte returned with coffee. They looked stunned, rightfully so. Imagine discovering the little startup daughter you dismissed now owns the firm that supported your lifestyle. Will they accept the jobs? I peered out at the skyline, thinking about pride and consequence. They will, I said quietly. Losing everything sometimes forces the hardest kind of growth. 3 days later, Mom and Dad showed up at TechFin. Mom fumbled with the casual office vibe. Dad couldn't believe how many of his former clients preferred our platform. Thomas called once when the news broke, probably angling for help. I had Charlotte block him. At the next company-wide meeting, I watched them sitting in the audience, badges clipped to their shirts. They looked different, humble, chastened, or at least finally awake to how the world had shifted. The future of finance isn't built on tradition or inherited privilege, I told everyone. It's built on innovation and seeing what others dismiss. They nodded along, understanding at last what they had failed to appreciate. Sometimes the sharpest form of justice isn't punishment, it's making those who doubted you participate in the success they once mocked.